Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Galaxy Channel. Tonight, we are going to think very slowly about something that sounds almost impossible when you first hear it, and yet is entirely true, and has been true for as long as there has been an Earth and a moon to circle it. The moon is leaving us, not suddenly, not with any drama, not in a way that anyone will ever see happen with their own eyes across a single night or a single lifetime. But it is leaving, all the same. Every year the moon drifts a little farther from the Earth, a distance about the width of your two hands held side by side, and it has been doing this patiently, faithfully, for billions of years. And it will go on doing it for billions more. And here is the paradox we will hold in our minds tonight, turning it over the way you might turn a smooth stone in your palm in the dark. The moon is escaping us, and yet nothing is being lost. The moon is moving away, and yet it has never once broken faith with us. It leaves without ever leaving. It says goodbye so slowly that the goodbye itself becomes a kind of company, a companionship measured not in nearness, but in constancy. That is the strange and lovely thing we will settle into together. We will move through this idea in 4 unhurried directions tonight, and you do not need to remember any of them, because they will come to you on their own when they are ready. First, we will think about why the moon moves away at all. The invisible handclasp between two bodies pulling on one another across empty space. Then we will drift back in time to when the moon was born close and enormous and burning in the sky, and we will watch how far it has traveled since. Then we will let ourselves be carried, imagining what it is to float in that slow current between two worlds, held and unhurried. And finally, we will let the numbers grow very large and very calm until the enormous distances stop being frightening and become instead a kind of soft blanket laid over everything, a reassurance that there is room enough and time enough for all of it. If this narration helps you find your way towards sleep tonight, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake in the dark, listening for a voice to walk them down toward rest. But that too can wait. It can wait for morning, or for whenever, or for never. None of this is anything you need to hold on to. There is nothing here to study, nothing to finish, nothing you must carry into tomorrow. Settle in. Let your shoulders ease down, away from your ears, into the surface beneath you. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands rest wherever they have fallen, palms open or curled, it does not matter which. Let the weight of your body be met entirely by the bed, the way the Earth meets the moon, holding without gripping. Let's begin. Let us begin with the simplest picture, the one you already carry inside you without ever having been taught it. There are two bodies in the dark. One is large and warm and turning, a great sphere of stone and water and air, and that is the Earth, and it is beneath you now, holding you the way it has always held you. And the other is smaller and paler, a sphere of dry stone with no air and no water and no weather, hanging out there at a distance, and that is the moon. And between them, stretched invisibly across 250,000 miles of nothing, there is a pull. You cannot see this pull. You cannot hear it. But you feel a cousin of it every moment of your life. In the way your body settles into the mattress, in the way a dropped thing falls, in the way your own limbs grow heavy as sleep approaches. It is gravity, and it is the oldest and most patient conversation in the universe. The Earth pulls on the moon, holding it close, keeping it from wandering off into the wider dark. hand, the moon, which is smaller but not small, pulls back on the Earth, tugging at it, drawing at its oceans, leaning on it from far away. This is not a struggle. Neither one is trying to win. It is more like two people who have held hands for so long that they no longer notice they are holding hands, and the holding has simply become the shape of their being together. And yet, out of this steady mutual holding, something surprising happens. Something that slowly, over unimaginable stretches of time, pushes the two of them apart. To understand it, we have to think about the oceans and about the tides, and this is where the story becomes gentle and strange. The moon, pulling on the Earth from far away, pulls a little harder on the side of the Earth that faces it, and a little softer on the far side. And the water of the oceans, being loose and free to move, in a way the solid stone is not, answers that pull. It bulges. It rises up toward the moon in a great soft swell, a heaping of the sea that follows the moon around the planet like a shadow made of water. There is a bulge on the near side, lifted toward the moon, and a second bulge on the far side, left behind as the near water rushes away. And so the whole ocean of the Earth is drawn into a long, slow oval shape, forever leaning toward the moon and away from it at the same time. You have stood at the edge of this. You have watched the tide come in over the flats and go out again, and what you were watching, without perhaps knowing it, was the moon reaching down and lifting the sea a few feet higher, twice a day, every day, for all the days there have ever been. Let that settle in you. The next time you see the tide, you will know that you are watching two worlds touch. Now here is the turn, the quiet mechanical heart of the whole matter, and we will go through it slowly, and you do not need to hold it all at once. The Earth is turning. It spins on itself once a day, and it spins faster than the moon travels around it. So the Earth, spinning underneath those two great bulges of water, is always trying to drag them forward, to carry them ahead of the moon, because the solid planet turns quickly and the moon moves slowly. The bulges of water get pulled a little ahead of where the moon actually is. And now those bulges, that heaped up water sitting slightly ahead of the moon, have their own small gravity, their own faint pull. And they reach out across the distance, and they tug the moon forward, ever so faintly, in the direction of the Earth's spin. They whisper to the moon, "Come along, come a little faster, come a little farther out." And the moon, hearing this, obeys. It speeds up, just the tiniest amount, and a faster-moving moon swings into a wider orbit, a little higher, a little farther away. This is the secret. This is the whole of it. The tides that the moon raises in our seas reach back and, over ages, push the moon gently away. The moon is escaping us on a current made of our own oceans. The very embrace between the two worlds is the thing that, so slowly, loosens the embrace. And there is a companion to this loosening, a second half of the exchange, and it is worth resting with, because it makes the whole thing feel less like a departure and more like a shared settling. When the water bulges tug the moon forward, the moon tugs back on them, and it drags a little on those bulges, and through them it drags a little on the whole spinning Earth. It acts like a hand pressed softly against a turning wheel, slowing it, easing it. And so, while the moon is being pushed outward, the Earth's own spin is being quieted. The days are growing longer, not in a way you could ever notice, not in a way that would ever make you late or early for anything. But long ago the days were shorter, and the Earth whirled around far faster than it does now, and the moon hung much nearer, and as the moon has drifted out, the Earth has wound down like a top losing its hurry, like a breath being let out very, very slowly across an age. There is a kind of fairness in it, a balance kept. What the moon gains in distance, the Earth gives in speed. Nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. The two of them are simply passing something back and forth between them, patiently, across the eons, and the passing of it is the slow letting go. I want you to hold that image now, because it is the thread we will follow all the way down into sleep tonight. Picture two hands that have been clasped together for so long that no one remembers when the clasp began. And picture them, over an unthinkable stretch of time, beginning to open. Not letting go all at once, not pulling apart, just easing, finger by finger, across ages so long that the opening itself is invisible in any single moment. There is no sadness in this loosening. There is no wound in it. It is the most tender kind of release there is, the kind where nothing is being abandoned, because the two hands remain within sight of one another, within reach, within the same quiet room, for longer than there will ever be anyone to watch. The moon is that hand, opening across the eons, and it is opening so slowly, so kindly, that the goodbye will never actually arrive. Rest there a moment, a hand slowly, tenderly letting go, with no sorrow anywhere inside it. Let us turn now to the size of this leaving, because when you first hear the number, it sounds almost too small to matter, and that smallness is itself a comfort. Each year, the moon moves away from the Earth by about 1.5 inches. Say that to yourself in the dark. 1.5 inches. Less than the length of your thumb. In the time it has taken you to settle into the bed tonight, to let your breathing lengthen and your body grow heavy, the moon has not moved away from you at all, not by any distance you could measure, not by the width of a hair. This is not a fleeing. This is not a rushing away into the dark. This is the slowest departure imaginable, so slow that, across your entire life, from your first breath to your last, the moon will draw back by only a few feet, a distance you could cross in a single easy step. You and the moon are, for all the purposes of a human life, standing perfectly still with respect to one another. It hangs where it has always hung. It rises where it has always risen. The tides come and go on the same unbroken rhythm your grandparents knew and their grandparents before them, back and back through every generation. The escape is real, but it is patient beyond all human patience, and there is nothing in it that will ever change the sky you look up into. And yet, though the yearly step is small, time is not small. And this is where the mind begins to loosen and float, because time has more room in it than we can ever hold. 1.5 inches a year sounds like nothing, and across a year it is nearly nothing. But the Earth and the moon have been together for 4.5 billion years, and across that span the inches gather and gather, the way single grains of sand gather into a whole shore, the way single breaths gather into a whole night of sleeping. And when you let all those tiny yearly steps add themselves together across the long dark corridor of the past, you arrive at a moon that was once so close it would have filled the sky. So the smallness and the vastness are both true at once. In any single night, the moon does not move at all. Across the whole life of the world, it has crossed an ocean of distance. And you can hold both of these in your mind at the same time without any strain. The way you can hold the sound of your own breathing and the silence around it at the same time. The near thing and the far thing resting together. Let us drift back now, down that long corridor of time, to the very beginning, to the night the moon was born, because the story of how it came to be so near is one of the strangest and most peaceful in all the sky, once you let go of the fire in it and keep only the settling. Long ago, before there was a moon at all, the young Earth was alone. A hot new world still finding its shape, turning very fast in the dark. And there was another body out there, a smaller world, about the size of the planet Mars, wandering the same lanes of space around the young sun. And the paths of these two worlds crossed. They came together. Now, when we imagine this, our first instinct is to flinch, to picture violence and catastrophe, and it is true that in the moment it was the most enormous event our part of the sky has ever known. But look at it from far enough away, and from long enough after, and even this becomes a kind of slow blooming. Two worlds meet and merge and throw a great ring of molten stone up into the sky around the Earth, a glowing bracelet of vaporized rock spinning in the black. And that ring, over time, over cooling, over the patient gathering that gravity always does, drew itself together into a single sphere. And that sphere was the moon, new and hot, and unimaginably close. How close? This is the part to rest with. The part that stretches the mind so pleasantly it begins to go soft at the edges. When the moon first formed, it may have been only 1/10 of the distance away that it is now, perhaps even nearer. It hung enormous in the sky of the young Earth, many times wider than the moon you know. A vast glowing face filling a huge part of the heavens, close enough that if there had been any eyes to see it, it would have seemed to press down over the whole world. And it was moving. Even then, from the very first, the same slow current was already at work. The tides it raised in that early molten Earth were colossal. Mountains of rock and, later, mountains of water heaving up toward it. And those tides were already, from the very beginning, pushing it away. From its first hour, the moon began its long drift outward. It has been leaving since before there were oceans as we know them, before there was a single living thing, before there was breath or eye or voice anywhere on the Earth to watch it go. And it has been leaving so tenderly and so slowly that it is still here, still bright, still faithful, all these billions of years later. Think of what the moon has watched from its slowly widening seat in the sky. When it hung close and huge, the Earth had no life on it at all, only stone and storm and a boiling sea. And as the moon eased backward, inch by patient inch, life began. The first small living things stirred in the shallow waters, and the moon pulled the tides across them, in and out, teaching the edges of the sea a rhythm. Some scientists think those very tides, that endless gentle flooding and draining of the shorelines, those pools filled and emptied twice a day by the moon's far reach, may have been one of the cradles where life first learned to move between water and land. So, the same force that is carrying the moon away may also be the force that rocked the first living things toward the shore. The leaving and the giving are the same motion. The hand that is opening is also the hand that first set the cradle rocking. There is no loss in it anywhere. There is only a long, slow, generous unfolding, and you are lying inside the latest moment of it, warm and held and about to sleep. Now let us think for a while about how we ever came to know any of this, because there is something deeply restful in the story of the people who measured the moon's slow escape, patient people leaning over instruments in the dark, asking a quiet question and waiting years for the answer. For most of human history, no one suspected the moon was leaving at all. Why would they? It hung in the same place, night after night, generation after generation. It was the very picture of constancy, the thing you could count on when everything else changed. The idea that it might be drifting away would have seemed as strange as the idea that the ground beneath you might be drifting away. And in a sense, the first clue did not come from looking at the moon at all. It came from looking at old records of the sky, from comparing the eclipses that ancient watchers had carefully written down with where the mathematics said those eclipses ought to have been. And the numbers did not quite match. The old eclipses had happened a little off from where a perfectly steady Earth and moon would have placed them. Something in the great clockwork was very slowly changing. It was a long, patient puzzle, worked over by many minds across many lifetimes. Some began to suspect that the Earth's own spin was slowing, that the day was very gradually growing longer, and that the moon was in some way tied to this, drifting outward. But to suspect a thing is not to know it, and to know it, you must measure it. And how do you measure a drift of 1.5 inches across a distance of 250,000 miles? For centuries, it simply could not be done directly. The change was too small, the distance too great, the instruments too coarse. So the knowledge stayed a suspicion, an elegant guess, a thing the mathematics whispered, but the eye could not confirm. And there is something lovely in that long waiting, in all those years of not quite knowing, the way you might lie awake with a question and simply let it rest unanswered, untroubled, knowing the answer will come when it comes and not before. And then, within living memory, the answer came. And it came in the most beautiful way, a way that turned the abstract drift into something you could almost touch. Travelers went to the moon, and among the things they carried and left behind, set carefully down on that dry gray plain, were panels covered in small mirrors, arrays of little reflectors angled just so, designed to catch a beam of light and send it straight back the way it came. They are still there now, sitting silent in the lunar dust, untouched by wind, because there is no wind, unmoved for more than half a century. And from the Earth, across all that dark distance, we send up a thin pulse of laser light, a single whisper of red aimed at those mirrors. The light crosses the gulf, strikes the reflectors, and comes home. And by measuring, with exquisite care, how long the light takes to make that round trip, out and back, we can measure the distance to the moon to within the width of your finger. We do this again and again across the years, and the distance, each time we measure it, is a little greater, not by much, by that same patient 1.5 inches a year. But we can see it now. We can watch the moon leaving, in a number that grows a little every year, confirmed by a thread of light bouncing off mirrors left in the dust by people who walked there and came home. The suspicion has become a measurement. The whisper has become a fact. And still the fact changes nothing about the sky above you tonight. I find something wonderfully calming in that image, and I want you to rest in it before we move on. A beam of light, leaving the Earth in silence, crossing the whole dark distance to the moon, touching those tiny mirrors, and returning. Out and back, out and back. It is like a slow breath drawn between two worlds, the Earth breathing out a thread of light and breathing it back in, over and over, patiently taking the measure of how far its old companion has drifted. And every time the breath returns, it says the same soft thing. A little farther, but still here, still reachable, still close enough that a whisper of light can cross to it and come home again within the space of a couple of heartbeats. However far the moon has gone, It has not gone beyond the reach of a single beam of light and the patience to wait for it. Let that be a comfort as your own breathing lengthens now. Out and back. Out and back. Nothing lost. Nothing that does not return. Let us leave the numbers behind for a while now. And let us leave the ground behind too, because I want you to be carried. You do not have to do anything for this. You do not have to move a muscle or picture anything perfectly. Just let the words lift you, the way water lifts a body that has stopped struggling. Imagine that you are rising, without effort, without any sensation of speed, up and away from the surface of the bed, up through the ceiling that offers no resistance, up through the roof, and the cool night air, and the thinning layers of sky, until you are floating in the black between the earth and the moon. There is no cold here that can touch you. There is no falling here that can frighten you. You are held in the same slow current that carries the moon, and it carries you just as tenderly, just as unhurriedly. Below you and behind you the earth turns, blue and white and enormous and quiet, its oceans catching the light, its weather curling in slow white ribbons across its face. And ahead of you, or beside you, at the far end of that great dark space, hangs the moon, pale and patient, drifting at exactly the pace you are drifting, so that between the two of you, nothing moves at all. You are floating in the space of the moon's slow escape, and from inside it, the escape feels like perfect stillness. Feel how much room there is here. This is the thing that surprises people about the distance between the Earth and the moon. It is vast. You could line up every other planet in the whole solar system, all of them, side by side, in the gap between the Earth and the moon, and they would fit, with room to spare. That is how much dark, patient, empty space lies between the two worlds. And you are floating in the middle of all that room, and it does not feel empty, and it does not feel lonely. It feels spacious. It feels like the largest, most uncrowded quiet you have ever been held inside. There is nothing here pressing on you. There is nothing here that wants anything from you. There is only the slow current, and the two great pale worlds at either end of it, and you, weightless, unhurried, carried along between them like a single held breath. Let your body feel that weightlessness now, wherever it is lying. Let the mattress become the current. Let the whole weight of you be given over to something that will carry you without your help. And now let yourself drift, truly drift, in the direction the moon is drifting. Feel yourself easing outward, away from the bright blue earth, so slowly that there is no sense of leaving, only a widening, only a gentle opening of the space around you. This is what the moon feels, if the moon could feel anything, on its long journey outward. Not a wrench, not a tearing away, but the softest possible widening, a distance that opens the way petals open, without any moment you could point to and say, "Here, this is where it began to move." You are the moon now, easing outward on the current of the tides, held always by the Earth's unbroken pull, never once let go of, never once abandoned, and yet always, tenderly, drifting a little farther into the roomy dark. There is no edge you are going to fall off. There is no darkness out here that is going to swallow you. There is only more room, and more quiet, and the steady faithful pull from behind that keeps you turning always to face the world you came from. Drift. Let yourself drift. This is the safest current there is, the one that has carried the moon for 4.5 billion years and never once dropped it. And here is the tenderest part of the drifting. the part that ties back to the hands we spoke of. As the moon eases outward, it keeps one face always turned toward the earth. It does not turn away. In all these billions of years of leaving, it has never once shown us its back. This is not a coincidence, and it is not sentiment. It is the same tides at work, having long ago slowed the moon's own turning until it settled into a rhythm where one hemisphere gazes forever homeward. But let yourself feel the tenderness in it, past the physics. Here is a companion that is leaving, and yet cannot bring itself to look away, and so drifts backward into the dark with its eyes always on the world it loves, holding the gaze even as the distance grows. The hand opens, finger by finger, across the eons, but the face never turns. That is the shape of this goodbye. A slow widening that never once breaks the gaze. A letting go that keeps looking back with tenderness the whole long way. You can rest in that. You can let yourself be both of them at once tonight. The world that holds without gripping, and the companion that drifts without ever looking away. And now, while you are resting in that image, let your mind loosen back into the long story of how anyone ever came to know this at all. Because there is comfort in the knowing, in the fact that people far below you, people with tired eyes and careful hands, worked this out one patient measurement at a time. For most of human history, no one suspected the moon was leaving. It hung in the sky the way it always had, the same pale coin over every generation of shepherds and sailors and children who could not sleep, and it seemed as fixed as anything could be, as permanent as the ground. People built their calendars around it, timed their harvests and their tides and their quiet festivals by it, and never once imagined it was easing away from them the whole time, a little farther each year, too slow for any single life to feel. The leaving was there all along, folded invisibly into the nights, waiting for someone to notice. The first thread of the noticing came not from the moon itself, but from the past, from old eclipses written down thousands of years ago by watchers in Babylon and China who marked the exact hour the sky went dark and pressed those hours into clay and silk. And when much later astronomers took those ancient records and asked where the moon should have been on those nights, working backward with the clean arithmetic of orbits, the numbers did not quite land. The old eclipses had happened a little earlier, a little off from where the equations placed them, as though time itself had been running at a subtly different pace, as though the Earth had been turning just a touch faster in those ancient centuries than it turns tonight. It was a small discrepancy, the kind that a careless mind would round away, but careful minds do not round away the things that will not fit. They lean closer. They ask what the sky is trying to tell them. And what the sky was telling them, once they finally understood it, was the whole gentle secret at once. The Earth is slowing. The days are lengthening, second by second across the ages, and the moon is drifting outward, and these two facts are not separate facts, but one single fact seen from two sides, bound together by the same tides that lift the seas. The spin that the Earth loses is not lost at all. It flows outward, quietly, into the moon's orbit, lifting it higher, easing it away. Nothing is wasted in this exchange. Nothing simply vanishes. The energy of the turning world is handed, tide by tide, night by night, to the companion that circles it, and the handing off is so smooth and so faithful that it took clay tablets and centuries of patient watchers to catch it happening. Let that settle over you as you lie there. The people who found this were not frightened by it. They were quieted by it, the way you are being quieted now. There was a night, not so very long ago, in the long reckoning of things, when the knowing became something you could touch, something more solid than inference from old eclipses. Astronauts walked on the moon, and among the instruments they set down on that gray and silent plain was a small panel studded with mirrors, precise little corners of glass angled to send any light that struck them straight back the way it came. They left it there, and they came home. And, ever since, on clear nights, observatories on Earth aim a pulse of laser light across all that distance, up and out through the dark, to strike those mirrors and return. And by timing the journey of that light, the going and the coming, down to a sliver of a second, we can measure the distance to the moon with an accuracy that would have seemed like sorcery to the clay tablet watchers. We know the gap to within the width of a few fingers, and year after year, the light takes a fraction longer to return, because the mirrors are a little farther away than they were the year before. We are not guessing anymore. We are watching the moon leave in real time, one laser pulse at a time, and the measurement is as calm and undramatic as a breath. Think of that for a moment, softly, without straining. Somewhere below you, in the dark, a beam of light is reaching up toward the moon right now, or has just gone, or is about to go, a slender thread of light thrown across 400,000 kilometers to touch a small mirror left by hands that are old now or gone, and to come faithfully home again. And each time it returns, it carries the same small news, the same tender fact, that the distance has grown by the tiniest amount, that the drifting continues, patient and unhurried and utterly without alarm. The moon is leaving at about the speed your fingernails grow. That is the whole velocity of this goodbye. Slower than anything you would ever call fast, slower than a season turning, slower than a child growing. A leaving so gradual that calling it a leaving at all feels almost too sharp a word for something so tender. It is more like a hand relaxing than a hand pulling away. It is more like a breath let out slowly than a door closing. And here is where the discovery folds back into the feeling of it. Because knowing how it was found does not make it colder, it makes it warmer. Every number in this story was gathered by someone who could not sleep either. Someone who stayed up over charts and lenses and long columns of figures. Someone who wanted, the way you want, to understand the thing that hangs over all of us. The measurement of the moon's leaving is, in its own quiet way, a very long act of attention. Generations of people paying close and loving attention to a companion in the sky and finding, in the end, not something to fear, but something to marvel at gently. You are the latest one paying attention now. And you can let that attention go soft and blur at the edges, and finally close, knowing the watching will go on without you, as it always has. Let the story widen now, back to the seas, because it is the seas that are doing all of this. The slow, patient ocean that rises and falls against every shore twice a day. And there is a deep restfulness in understanding how such a small thing, water lifting and settling, could set a whole world's companion gently on its way. When the moon passes over an ocean, its pull raises the water into a soft swelling, a low, broad bulge that follows the moon around the turning planet. But the Earth turns faster than the moon travels, and so this bulge of raised water is always carried a little ahead, dragged forward by the spinning world beneath it, never quite sitting directly under the moon, but always running slightly in front of it. And that displaced water, that heaped and hurried tide, has its own faint gravity, its own small tug, and it reaches back across the distance and pulls the moon very softly forward along its orbit. Forward, always forward, a whisper of a pull, and that whisper is enough. Speed the moon even by a breath and its orbit lifts, and it eases outward, and it settles into a slightly wider circle, and does it all again the next night, and the next, for 4.5 billion years. There is something almost unbearably tender in that, if you let yourself feel it. The very tides the moon raises in our seas are the hands that ease it away from us. The moon reaches down and lifts the water, and the water lifted reaches back and lets the moon go. A little higher, a little farther, in a slow exchange that neither one intends and neither one resists. It is not a struggle. Nothing here is fighting anything. It is the smoothest possible surrender, a giving and a releasing that happen in the same motion, the same caress. The world holds the moon by pulling the sea, and the sea sets the moon free by pulling it forward, and around it goes, an unhurried loosening of the grip across ages so long that no shore has ever felt the difference. You have felt those tides yourself, maybe, the water climbing your ankles at the edge of some evening beach, cool and dark and endlessly patient. You were standing, without knowing it, in the very machinery of the goodbye. You were feeling, against your own skin, the slow hands that are letting the moon drift home into the dark, and the earth pays for this generosity in its own gentle way, and the payment is nothing to fear either. Every push the tide gives the moon is a push the moon gives back, and that returned push presses very softly against the earth's turning, slowing the spin by the smallest amount, lengthening the day by a sliver of a second across long stretches of time. Once, long ago, the days were shorter. The young earth spun quickly, whirling through days that lasted only a handful of hours, and the moon hung close and enormous overhead, and the tides were mountainous and swift. And ever since, patiently, the days have been stretching, hour added to hour across the geologic ages, the world winding down like something settling into rest. There is no violence in it. The planet is simply, slowly, over unimaginable time, learning to turn a little more calmly and handing the difference up to the moon, and letting the moon drift out on the gift of it. The whole system is easing towards stillness, the way you are easing towards sleep, not stopping, never quite stopping, just slowing and softening and settling, breath by breath, tide by tide. Now let yourself imagine, drifting a little deeper, what it was like when the two of them were young and close. Because there is a strange comfort in picturing the beginning of a leaving, in knowing that this drift started from an embrace. Long ago, in the first chapter of the world, the moon was born very near, so near that if you could have stood on the young earth and looked up, you would have seen it filling a great swath of the sky, a vast and glowing presence far larger than the modest silver disk you know tonight. It hung close and huge and near enough to touch, or so it would have seemed. Close enough that the two worlds were locked in a fierce and intimate dance, the tides towering, the days racing by in a few short hours. The moon wheeling across the heavens many times in the span of what we would now call a single day. It was a loud and vivid youth, all closeness and motion and heat. And even then, from the very first, the drifting had already begun. Even in that closest embrace, the moon was already easing away, already beginning the long, slow letting go that has continued without pause ever since. So the distance you see tonight is the distance of a friendship grown old and gentle. The fierce closeness cooled into the calm companionship you know now, the moon settling back to a comfortable remove, no longer filling the sky but resting in it, a familiar face at an easy distance, close enough to light your path and lift your tides and steady your nights, far enough to have room to breathe. The relationship did not end when the closeness eased. It deepened. It matured into the long, faithful partnership that has watched over every living thing that ever crawled, or walked, or dreamed on the surface of the earth. And the drifting that carried the moon from that first fierce embrace to this quiet middle distance is the same drifting that carries it, imperceptibly, a little farther still, tonight, while you rest. There is no break in it anywhere. It is all one continuous, unhurried, tender loosening, from the closest embrace to the farthest dark. One long exhale of a goodbye that is really just the shape of a very deep and very patient love. And the moon, all this while, has been steadying us in ways you feel without naming. The earth spins upright, more or less, tilted at a friendly angle that gives us our seasons. Our gentle procession of summer into autumn, into the long white hush of winter and back again. And it is the moon, that faithful drifting companion, that holds this tilt steady. Without it, the earth might wobble and lurch across the ages, its poles wandering, its climates swinging wildly. But the moon's steady presence keeps the world's axis calm and true. A hand resting lightly on the shoulder of a spinning thing, keeping it from staggering. So even as it leaves, it steadies. Even in the drifting, it holds us level. That is the kind of companion this is, one that goes on giving its steadying gift the whole long way out, one whose leaving is so slow and so faithful that it will keep on holding us upright for ages and ages yet. Long past any night you or anyone you love will ever see. You are being held level, right now, by something that is drifting away. Let that paradox rock you gently. There is nothing you need to resolve in it. You can simply rest inside it. And now, let yourself be carried. Not doing, not holding, not straining after any of this, only carried. Imagine that you are lying not on your bed, but on the broad, slow turning surface of the world itself. Resting on the earth the way the earth rests in its orbit, held and moving at once. You are turning with the planet, a full turn every day, carried eastward through the dark, at a speed you never feel. Smooth as still water, and you have been carried this way your whole life without once being jostled or asked to help. The earth carries you now. It has carried everyone who ever lived, cradling them through their nights, turning them slowly out of the dark and into the morning without ever waking them from the deepest sleep. You do not have to steer. You do not have to keep yourself moving. You are already moving, already being carried, already held in a motion so faithful and so smooth that your body cannot even detect it, and all you have to do, the only thing there is to do, is let yourself be carried. And above you, held in the same great turning, the moon is carried too, sweeping its long, slow circle around you, month after month. Drifting a hair's breadth outward with every pass, and never once falling, never once faltering, borne up by the same tides that lap against the shores of the sleeping world. Picture the whole of it turning together, the earth and the moon, two companions wheeling through the dark in a slow and silent waltz, neither one gripping, neither one letting go too fast, just circling and circling in a rhythm older than any living thing, older than the seas, nearly as old as the world itself, and you are folded into that rhythm tonight. Your breath is part of it. The slow rise and fall of your chest is one more small circling motion inside all the larger ones. The breath inside the day, inside the month, inside the long drift of the years. Wheels inside wheels inside wheels, all of them turning you gently, gently toward rest. Let yourself drift the way the moon drifts. Not falling, never falling, just easing, loosening, widening out into something calmer and more spacious, the way the moon eases out into its wider and calmer orbit across the ages. There is so much room out here. That is the thing to feel as you drift. Not emptiness, not cold, but room, an unhurried spaciousness, a vast and quiet openness with plenty of space to rest in and no walls anywhere, and nothing that can hurry you or crowd you or ask anything of you. The moon has been drifting into that spaciousness for 4.5 billion years, and it has never once come to any harm. It has only found more room, more quiet, more of the tranquil dark. And you can follow it there, tonight, in your own drifting, letting go of the day the way the moon lets go of the earth, finger by finger, without sorrow, without haste, into all that peaceful room. There is a question that sometimes rises in the mind when you learn that the moon is leaving, a small worried question that wants to know where it all ends, whether the moon will simply keep drifting until one night it slips away entirely and is gone. And the answer is soft, and it is kind, and it lets you rest. The drifting slows as it goes. This is not a leaving that accelerates towards some final vanishing. It is the opposite. The farther the moon eases out, the more gently it eases. The recession itself relaxing across the ages the way a swing relaxes toward the bottom of its arc. The way a spinning top slows into a lazier and lazier wobble. The way your own breathing is slowing now toward the calm, even rhythm of sleep. The moon is not racing for the exit. It is settling over spans of time so vast that the numbers stop meaning anything to the body, toward a distant and stable middle distance where it can rest in a wider orbit, still circling, still faithful, still turning its patient face toward home. The letting go has a natural gentleness built into it, a softness that grows softer the longer it continues, and long, long before the moon could ever drift beyond reach, the sun will have written the ending of this whole small system in its own slow time, and even that is nothing to fear tonight, nothing that touches you or anyone you have ever loved, so distant in the future that the entire span of human history, everything that has ever happened, every love and every loss and every night anyone ever spent trying to fall asleep, is only the thinnest sliver at the very beginning of the story. The timescales here are so immense that they wrap all the way around from frightening into peaceful. You cannot worry about a thing that will not stir for billions of years. The body will not hold that kind of fear. It simply lets it go, the way it is letting everything go now. And it rests instead in the near and gentle truth, which is that the moon is here, tonight, hanging faithfully in the sky above your roof, drifting so slowly that for all of your life and all of your children's lives and all the lives beyond that, it will seem to hang perfectly still. A steady lantern in the dark, going nowhere at all that you could ever feel. So the leaving, when you look at it closely, is barely a leaving at all on any scale that a heart can measure. It is a fact about eternity, not a fact about tonight. Tonight the moon is exactly where it has always been, near enough to silver the edge of your window, near enough to lay a pale path across any water you might be sleeping beside, near enough to be the same moon your grandparents watched and their grandparents before them, the same unchanged companion, the same faithful face. The drift is real, and it is beautiful, and it is also so slow that it belongs entirely to the realm of the vast and the calm, the realm where nothing is urgent, where nothing is lost, where everything has all the time in the world, and you get to rest inside that realm now. You get to borrow the moon's own unhurried sense of time, its 4.5 billion years of patience, and let it slow your breath and loosen your shoulders and carry you down into the quiet. Let your thoughts drift now to the far future of this slow parting, not to worry over it, but to wander through it the way you might wander through a dream, softly, without needing anywhere to arrive. There will come a time, ages and ages from now, so far ahead that the continents will have wandered into shapes no map has ever held, when the Earth will have slowed its turning so much that the day and the month will begin to match, when a single rotation of the world will stretch out to the length of the moon's own circling. And in that far serene future, the Earth and the moon will settle into a perfect facing, each one turning the same cheek eternally toward the other, locked at last into a stillness they have been drifting toward from the very beginning. The moon already shows us only one face. In that distant age, the Earth will show the moon only one face in return, and the two of them will hang there gazing at one another across the calm gulf forever, the drifting finally come to rest. It is not an ending, it is an arrival. A long journey apart that turns out, at the very last, to be a settling into a deeper and more perfect stillness together. Picture it softly. A world and its moon, no longer racing, no longer even drifting, just holding one another's gaze across a quiet distance, motionless in their mutual regard, having spent billions of years easing apart only to arrive at a stillness more intimate than the fierce closeness of their youth. The whole long letting go, it turns out, was carrying them not toward loss, but toward peace, toward a final tranquil balance where nothing more needs to change and nothing more needs to be given, and the two of them can simply rest, face to face, in the dark. That is the shape the physics draws, if you follow it all the way to its end. Not a vanishing, a settling. Not a companion lost, but a companion finally, completely at rest beside us. And you can let that far-off stillness reach back across all those ages and touch you now, and let it show you that even the longest drifting apart can be, at its heart, a slow and patient movement toward calm. And there is comfort, too, in how small and safe your own place is within all of this immensity, comfort in being a small warm thing on a turning world, cradled by a companion that steadies your seasons and lifts your tides and has kept faithful watch over your kind since long before your kind had words for it. You do not have to be large to be held. The whole grand machinery of world and moon and drifting orbit and lengthening day does not ask you to be anything but small and resting. It turns for you regardless. It has always turned for the sleeping, carrying them through the dark, whether they understood any of it or not, whether they lay awake wondering at the moon or slept straight through its rising, cradling the wakeful and the dreaming alike. You are one of the countless small warm things this system has carried gently to sleep, one of an unbroken line of them stretching back and back through all the nights there have ever been, and you are carried now exactly as they were, held in the same faithful arms, rocked by the same slow turning. Think, if your mind still wants something to hold, of all the light this drifting has thrown down upon the world, all the moonlight of all the ages, and how none of it has ever once been diminished by the leaving. The moon has been easing away for 4.5 billion years, and yet the moonlight has never grown dim, never faltered, never failed to find its way down through the dark to lie across the shoulders of everything that sleeps. It fell on the first shallow seas where life was only beginning to stir. It fell on the vast quiet forests before there was anyone to walk in them. It fell on the first eyes that ever turned upward and wondered, and on every pair of eyes since, and it falls tonight, unchanged, upon your window, upon your roof, upon the still shape of you resting in the dark. The drifting has taken nothing from the light. The companion has grown a little more distant across the eons, and yet has never once withheld its gift, never once dimmed the pale silver blessing it lays down over the sleeping world every single night that the sky is clear. And that same faithful light has fallen on every human night that has ever been, on every sleeper who ever lay down beneath it, on the shepherd and the sailor and the tired traveler, on the mother rocking a child in the small hours and the child who could not say why it could not sleep, on lovers and mourners and dreamers and everyone in between, on kings and on the forgotten, on the whole long procession of the human family lying down night after night beneath the same drifting lantern. You are joining that procession now. You are lying down beneath the same moon they all lay down beneath, held in the same soft light, cradled by the same slow and faithful drift. One more sleeper among the countless sleepers the moon has watched over, and will go on watching over long after this night has folded itself away into all the other nights. There is a deep belonging in that. If you let yourself feel it, you are not alone under this moon. No one who has ever slept beneath it has ever truly been alone under it. It has held them all. So let the light hold you. Let it lie across you the way it has lain across every sleeper before you, the way it will lie across every sleeper after. There is nothing you have to do to receive it. It asks no effort, no attention, no wakefulness. It simply falls, freely and faithfully, on everything below, and it will keep falling whether your eyes are open or closed, whether you follow its drifting or let the whole story slip away from you into sleep. The moon does not need you to watch it leave. It has been leaving with perfect grace for billions of years without a single witness for most of them, drifting through the long dark ages before anyone was here to see. And it will go on drifting with that same grace tonight while you rest, needing nothing from you, asking nothing of you, only shining its patient light down over you as you let yourself sink deeper and deeper into the quiet. Let us return, drifting easily, to the tides, because there is more rest to be found in them, more of the slow rocking motion that lulls a body toward sleep. Twice each day, all around the sleeping world, the great oceans rise and fall in answer to the moon, lifting toward it and settling back, a vast and patient breathing of the seas that has never once stopped, not for a single day in billions of years. Somewhere on Earth, always, the water is climbing quietly up a shore, and somewhere else it is easing back down, and the whole planet's oceans move together in this endless, unhurried rhythm, this slow inhale and exhale of the tides, timed to the drifting moon overhead. It is the oldest breathing there is, and your own breath, right now, is a small echo of it, your chest rising and falling in its own gentle tide, in and out, up and down, in the same patient rhythm the seas have kept since before there was anyone to name them. Feel your breath fall into step with that ancient tidal rhythm. There is no effort in it. You do not have to deepen it, or slow it, or manage it in any way. Just let it move as the tides move, on its own, faithfully, the breath coming in like a tide, climbing softly up the sand, and going out like a tide easing back down into the dark water, in and out, each one a little slower than the last, each one carrying you a little farther down toward sleep. The moon lifts the seas, and the seas rock the world, and the world carries you, and your breath keeps its own small faithful tide inside all the larger ones. And none of it requires anything from you. None of it needs you to be awake or watchful or working at anything at all. It moves whether you tend it or not. It has always moved. It will move all night long, lifting and settling, rising and falling, rocking the whole sleeping planet as it rocks you now. And as the moon drifts a little farther out across the ages, the tides themselves grow very slowly softer, the great swellings of the sea easing back by the smallest degree as the companion that raises them recedes into its wider orbit. So even the breathing of the oceans is, in its own vast slow way, calming across time, the tides relaxing as the moon relaxes outward, the whole system settling toward a deeper stillness, the same way you are settling now. Nothing in this story ever gets more frantic. Everything eases. Everything slows. Everything drifts toward calm. From the farthest orbit to the deepest sea to the small warm tide of your own breath, moving quietly in the dark. You are part of the slowing. You are part of the settling. You are one more thing in a universe full of things that are all, tonight, gently coming to rest. There is a strange and lovely thought that can come to you now, resting here, and it is the thought that everything worth keeping in this story is a kind of letting go done well. The earth does not clutch the moon. It could not, and it does not try. It holds it the only way anything vast and gentle ever really holds anything, which is loosely, with open arms, with room enough for the held thing to breathe and to move, and even, over unimaginable time, to drift. And because it holds so loosely, it holds forever. That is the secret hidden inside the whole of this. The grip that never tightens is the grip that never breaks. The moon can drift for 4.5 billion years precisely because the earth was never gripping it in the first place, only holding, only cradling, only keeping faithful company with it across the dark. A tight grip would have long ago shattered or been shaken loose. But an open hand can hold across eternity because there is nothing in it to break. And maybe that is the tenderest lesson the drifting moon lays down over you tonight, softly, without insisting on it, the way it lays down its light. The things you love do not need to be gripped to be kept. They can be held with an open hand, held loosely, held with room to drift. And in that loose and generous holding, they are somehow kept more faithfully than any clutching could ever keep them. You do not have to hold anything tightly tonight. You do not have to grip the day, or grip your worries, or grip the tangled thoughts that come to visit in the dark. You can let your hands fall open, the way the earth's hold on the moon is open, and you can let it all drift a little, trusting that what is meant to stay will stay, held by the same faithful, loose embrace that has kept the moon these billions of years without once closing into a fist. Let your hands fall open now. Feel the fingers loosen, one by one, the way the earth loosens its hold on the moon across the eons, tenderly, without sorrow, letting go a little more with each slow breath. There is nothing you need to keep hold of to get through this night. The world will hold the moon for you. The moon will hold the tides for you. The tides will rock the seas, and the seas will rock the world, and the world will carry you gently through the turning dark. And not one of these things asks you to keep your grip on anything at all. You can let go of all of it now, the whole day, the whole long list of things you were carrying, Let them drift out and away like the moon drifting out into its wider orbit, softly, patiently, into all that peaceful room, and you will lose nothing by it, nothing at all, because the loose and open hold keeps everything that matters, and it will keep you too, all night long, while you rest. Drift a little further out with the moon now, out to where it hangs in the space between the earth and everything beyond, and consider how it shields us even as it leaves, another quiet gift folded into its faithful presence. The moon's gray and cratered face is a record of a long patience, each crater the soft-heeled mark of some ancient impact absorbed on our behalf, a companion standing between us and the debris of the young solar system, taking the blows that might otherwise have fallen on the seas where life was learning to live. It caught them so we would not have to. And though most of that violent age is long over, settled into the deep past like everything else in this slowing story, the moon still keeps its steady watch overhead, still stands its patient guard, still holds its place in the sky above the sleeping world. Even in its drifting, it does not abandon its post. It eases away by a hair's breadth each year, and yet remains, night after night, exactly the faithful sentinel it has always been, close enough to keep watch, close enough to steady us, close enough to light our dark. And there is such rest in being watched over by something that asks nothing in return. The moon does not need your thanks. It does not need your attention, or your wakefulness, or your worry. It has kept its watch through every night of human history, and through all the long ages before there was any history at all, watching over the sleeping and the waking alike with the same patient, impartial care, and it will keep that watch tonight, whether you notice it or not. You can hand your night over to it completely. You can lay down every last bit of your own watchfulness, every scrap of the vigilance you carry through your waking hours, and let the moon keep watch for you instead, the way it has kept watch for everyone, faithfully, unfailingly, needing nothing, asking nothing, only holding its calm, bright post in the dark above your roof, while you let yourself fall all the way asleep. Let the moon do the watching now. That is its work, and it is very good at it, and it has been doing it far longer than you or anyone has been alive. You do not have to keep any part of yourself on guard tonight. You do not have to listen for anything or brace for anything, or hold any corner of yourself awake and ready. The faithful drifting companion overhead has the watch. It will keep its steady light burning over you all night long, standing between you and the dark the way it has always stood between the world and the dark. And you can let yourself go completely. Let every muscle unclench and every thought grow soft, and every last thread of watchfulness dissolve, trusting the ancient patient guardian in the sky to hold your night for you while you rest in perfect safety underneath it. Let your mind soften now around the sheer slowness of it all, because the slowness is itself a kind of medicine, a balm for a mind used to hurrying. 1.5 centimeters a year. That is the whole speed of the moon's leaving, roughly the width of a couple of fingers laid side by side, a distance so small you could cover it with your thumb, and it takes an entire year of drifting to open even that. In the time it takes you to fall asleep tonight, the moon will not have moved outward by anything you could measure with any instrument you own. In a whole human lifetime, across all the years from a first breath to a last, the moon eases out by little more than the length of your body. That is the pace of this parting. Slower than the growth of a tree, slower than the carving of a canyon, slower than almost anything the mind can hold, so slow that the word leaving hardly fits it, so slow that on any scale a life can feel, the moon is simply, perfectly, blessedly still. And there is such deep rest in encountering something that truly cannot be hurried. Your days are full of things that press and rush, things with deadlines and urgencies, things that want you to move faster than you are, and the body carries all that hurry like a tightness it forgets it is holding. But here is something the size of a world that has taken 4.5 billion years to drift a fraction of the way across the sky, something that will not be rushed, cannot be rushed, has never once in all of time been in any kind of hurry at all. Let your body learn from it. Let the tightness of the day's hurry begin to unspool in the presence of something so magnificently, so patiently slow. There is nowhere you have to be tonight. There is nothing that has to happen quickly. You can borrow the moon's own unhurried pace and let every part of you that has been rushing finally, gratefully slow down to match it. Slower, everything a little slower now. Your breath slower, drifting out longer than it drifts in. Your thoughts slower, the busy chatter of the day thinning out into longer and longer silences between. Your heart slower, settling into the easy resting rhythm of a body letting go. Even your sense of time itself growing slower and looser and vaguer, the sharp edges of the hours softening, the urgent forward press of the day dissolving into the wide, calm timelessness of the drifting moon, where a year is nothing and a lifetime is nothing, and 4.5 billion years is only the length of a single unhurried breath. You are slowing to the pace of the heavens now. You are learning the tempo of the drifting moon, the tempo of the lengthening day, the tempo of the tides easing back across the ages, and it is the tempo of sleep, the slowest and calmest tempo there is, and you are sinking into it, gently, completely, all the way down. Drift back once more to the people who watched, because there is a particular comfort in imagining all the eyes that have followed this moon across all the ages, and knowing your own drowsy eyes are the newest pair in that long line. Somewhere in the ancient world, a watcher sat through a cold night, marking the exact moment the shadow crossed the moon, pressing the hour into soft clay so that it would outlast him. Never knowing that thousands of years later someone would lift his careful record and read in it the secret of the moon's slow leaving. He was only trying to keep track of the sky. He was only doing the small faithful work of paying attention. And that small faithful work, repeated by countless watchers across countless centuries, each one adding a little to what the last had gathered, is how the whole tender truth came finally to be known. No single mind found it. It was found the way the tides find the shore, patiently, over ages, a little at a time, by many hands. Picture them all, if it soothes you, the long procession of the watchers stretching back through time. The clay tablet astronomers of the ancient river valleys. The patient monks who timed eclipses by candlelight. The lens grinders and the star charters. The ones who stayed up over their instruments in cold observatory domes. The ones who first fired laser light at the mirrors on the moon and waited, hearts quickening, for it to come faithfully home. Generation after generation of the sleepless and the curious, each one leaning closer to the sky, each one adding a thread to the slow weaving of the knowledge, none of them ever seeing the whole picture, all of them together drawing it into being. And now the picture is drawn, and it is beautiful, and it is calm, and it says only this: the moon is drifting away, slowly, tenderly, without sorrow, and it is perfectly all right. You are resting tonight on the far end of all that patient watching, receiving the finished gift of it, and all you have to do with it is let it soothe you down to sleep. There is a kind of gratitude that can settle over you now, soft and warm, for all those watchers who did the wondering so that you would not have to, who worked out the whole gentle mechanism of the drifting moon across their long cold nights so that you could simply lie here and receive it, already understood, already made peaceful, handed to you like a story told at the edge of sleep. You do not have to figure any of it out. It has all been figured out already by kinder and more patient minds than the tired mind you carry into bed tonight, and figured out to be, in the end, nothing frightening at all, only a slow and tender drifting, only an open hand across the eons, only a companion easing home into the peaceful dark. You can rest in their finished understanding the way you rest in a made bed, everything already smoothed and turned down and waiting to receive you. Nothing left for you to do but lie down in it and let go. Let yourself imagine, drowsily, standing on the moon itself for a moment, on that motionless gray plain, and looking back the way the moon forever looks back, at the earth hanging blue and luminous in a black and silent sky. From there, the earth would not seem to be losing the moon at all. From there, you would see only your home, whole and shining, turning slowly, wrapped in its soft white weather, the one warm, bright thing in all that dark. And you would understand why the moon keeps its face turned always toward it. How could it look away? There is nothing else out there half so lovely to look at. And so it drifts backward into the dark, with its gaze fixed forever on that blue and glowing world, easing away by a breath each year, and never once turning its eyes from home. And if there is any feeling in the drifting at all, it is not sorrow, but devotion. The quiet, steady devotion of a thing that cannot stop gazing at what it loves, even as the gentle distance grows between them. Feel yourself held inside both ends of that gaze at once, the way you have been all along. You are the beloved blue world that the moon cannot stop watching, whole and warm and worth every year of that faithful attention. And you are also the drifting companion, easing back into the dark, letting the day recede the way the moon lets the earth recede, but never quite letting go of the tenderness, never quite turning your face from the things you love. You can be both tonight, the held and the holding, the watched and the watching, resting in the safety of being gazed upon and the peace of gazing back. And as sleep comes closer, you can let even the gazing soften. Let the blue world blur and dim. Let the distance grow gentle and vague. Let the whole tender scene of world and moon and endless devotion fade slowly down into the dark like a lamp being lowered, until there is only the drifting left, only the easing, only the soft, peaceful letting go carrying you down. And the drift goes on, faithful and unhurried, exactly as it has for 4.5 billion years, needing no witness, asking no effort, taking nothing from anyone. Right now, this very moment, in the real dark above your real roof, the moon is easing outward by the tiniest imaginable amount, drifting a hair's breadth farther into the peaceful room of space. And it is the same drift that carried it from its fierce close youth to this calm middle distance, the same drift that will carry it on toward that far serene stillness ages and ages hence. One long, continuous, tender letting go, with no break in it anywhere, no sorrow in it anywhere, only the slow and faithful opening of a hand across the eons. And you are drifting with it now. You are easing outward with it, loosening with it, letting go with it, carried on the same calm current into the same peaceful dark, softer and slower and farther down with every breath. Let the thought of energy soothe you now. The way the moon's leaving is really just a slow and faithful handing on of motion, because there is something deeply restful in knowing that nothing here is ever lost, only passed gently from one keeping to another. The spin the Earth surrenders does not vanish into nothing. It flows up into the moon's orbit and lifts it higher. The height the moon gains is not conjured out of emptiness. It is the Earth's own turning, given away. Round and round the exchange goes, the world handing its motion up to the moon carrying it out into a wider orbit, everything conserved, everything accounted for, nothing anywhere falling out of the universe or slipping away into loss. It is the gentlest kind of economy there is, a slow and perfect passing of gifts between two companions, each giving what it has, each receiving what the other gives, across ages so long the giving looks like stillness. And that is a comforting shape for a tired mind to rest inside, the shape of a world where nothing is truly lost, only moved, only handed on, only carried from one form into another. The warmth of your day is not lost as you fall asleep. It settles into rest. The busyness of your waking hours is not lost as the night takes them. It eases into the deep, still work of sleep, where the body mends itself, and the mind sorts through its long day, and everything is quietly conserved, quietly carried on, nothing wasted, nothing gone. You are part of the same faithful economy as the Earth and the moon. The energy of your day is not vanishing tonight. It is only being handed, gently, into the keeping of the dark, the way the Earth hands its spin into the keeping of the moon, and it will come back to you in the morning, transformed into rest, the way the moon's borrowed motion comes back to the whole system as a slow and lasting calm. So you can let the day pass out of you now, without any fear of losing it. Let it drain softly away like a tide easing back down the sand, knowing it is not gone, only handed on, only settling into the great quiet keeping of the night. Let the tightness pass out of your shoulders and into the dark. Let the noise pass out of your mind and into the dark. Let the whole heavy day pass out of you, breath by breath, into the faithful keeping of the sleep that is coming. Trusting the way the moon trusts, the way the tides trust, the way the whole slow drifting system trusts, that nothing given up to the dark is ever really lost, that it is only passing on, only easing outward, only drifting into the calm to be transformed, in its own good time, into rest. Let yourself sink now into the sheer size of the quiet out where the moon drifts, because there is rest to be found in that immensity, not the cold, empty immensity a fearful mind imagines, but a soft and spacious one, a vastness with room in it for everything to rest. Between the Earth and the moon there stretches a gulf so wide you could line up every other world of the inner solar system inside it and still have room to spare. And yet the moon crosses that gulf's slow widening without the least alarm, at home in all that space, unhurried by all that distance. There is nothing out there crowding it, nothing pressing on it, nothing hurrying it along. Only room, endless, gentle room, the kind of room a body dreams of when it has spent too long in the narrow press of the day. And you can go out into that room now, in your loosening imagination, and find it not frightening, but freeing. A vast, soft openness where nothing can crowd you and nothing can rush you, and there is space enough at last to simply rest. Feel how much room there is. Feel the walls of the day fall away, the tight little rooms of your worries opening out into something wide and calm and boundless as the space the moon drifts through. There is room here for every heavy thing you carried into bed. there is room for it to drift away from you, out into the vast soft dark, where it grows smaller and dimmer and less able to reach you. The way the Earth grows small and dim in the sky over the receding moon. You do not have to hold your troubles close in a space this large. You can let them drift out to the edges. Let them recede the way the moon recedes. Let all that gentle room open up between you and everything that pressed on you today, until they are only faint far points of light, too distant to trouble you, too far away to do anything but glimmer softly at the very edge of a sky you are drifting to sleep beneath. And in the middle of all that peaceful room, held by nothing and needing nothing, you can simply float. That is what the moon does, after all. It does not grip, and it is not gripped. It floats, held by the softest of pulls in the largest of rooms, drifting its slow, faithful circle through a spaciousness so vast and so calm that falling is not even possible, because there is nowhere to fall. Only more room, only more hush, only more of the tranquil open dark. Let yourself float like that now. Let the bed beneath you turn into that vast, soft room. Let your body grow light and unheld and easy, floating in the great, gentle spaciousness the way the moon floats, carried by nothing you can feel, held by nothing that grips, resting in a quiet so large and so kind that there is nothing left anywhere that could possibly disturb you. Nothing but room and quiet, and the slow, faithful drift carrying you down into sleep. Let a soft body loosening move through you now, drawn along the same tender thread of the hand slowly opening. Start with your hands themselves, the ones that clench without your noticing all through a long day, and let them open the way the Earth's hold opens on the moon, finger by finger, unhurried, without sorrow. Let the fingers uncurl and grow heavy and warm against the sheets. Let the palms soften. Let the wrists go loose. There is nothing left for your hands to hold onto tonight, nothing to grip, nothing to carry, and so they can lie there completely open, completely at rest, the way an open hand lets a beloved thing drift free without ever letting go of the love in it. Feel the letting go begin in your hands, and know that it is the same letting go the whole sky has been doing for 4.5 billion years, gentle, faithful, entirely without pain. Let it spread now, that opening, that loosening, up through your arms and across your shoulders where so much of the day's weight likes to gather. Let the shoulders drop and widen and ease, the tightness in them drifting away like the moon drifting outward, receding, growing distant, losing its hold on you. Let your arms grow heavy and warm and drift down into the bed. Let your chest soften around the slow tide of your breath, rising and falling now in the ancient rhythm of the seas, in like a tide climbing softly up the sand. Out like a tide easing back down into the dark, each breath a little slower, each one carrying you a little farther down. Let your back settle and spread against the bed as though it were sinking into soft ground, held and cradled, needing to do nothing, needing to hold nothing up any longer. And let the loosening drift down at last through your hips and your legs, down through the knees, down through the ankles, all the way to your feet, everything growing heavy and warm and wonderfully far away, everything easing open the way the hand eases open across the eons, tenderly, patiently, letting go of the whole long day one loosened muscle at a time. Your whole body drifting now, open and heavy and calm, floating in the vast soft room the way the moon floats, held by the gentlest of pulls, carried by the slowest of currents, letting go of everything and losing nothing, drifting outward and downward into the peaceful dark. There is nothing left to hold. There is nothing left to do. There is only the drift, and the quiet, and the slow, faithful letting go carrying you all the way down towards sleep. There is one more facet of this slow parting worth resting your mind against. The way you might rest a tired cheek against a cool pillow. And it is the thought of all the other worlds and their moons, all the quiet drifting companionships scattered through the wider dark. So that you may know this gentle leaving is not a strange or lonely thing, but something the whole universe does, over and over, tenderly, everywhere. Around distant worlds circling distant suns, moons are drifting outward exactly as ours is, or easing inward, or settling into their long, patient locks, each pair of them working out its own slow dance of tides and orbits, its own unhurried loosening or drawing in, its own version of the open hand across the eons. The sky is full of these quiet partnerships, full of worlds holding their moons loosely and letting them drift, full of the same faithful physics playing out its same tender music in 1,000,000 places you will never see. And there is a companionship in that thought, a sense of belonging to something enormous and calm, knowing that your own moon's slow leaving is only one instance of a thing the cosmos does everywhere, gently, endlessly, as naturally as breathing. You are not watching some rare and fragile event that might break if you look away. You are watching one ordinary tender miracle among countless others, one open hand among a universe full of open hands, all of them letting go slowly, all of them without sorrow, all of them across spans of time so vast that the letting go looks, from any single night, exactly like holding on. The whole universe is doing this. The whole universe is drifting apart at its own unhurried pace, easing outward, cooling, settling, spreading into more and more room, and doing it all so slowly and so faithfully that from where you lie it looks like the deepest peace there is. So you belong to a drifting cosmos, and there is nothing to fear in that, only a vast, quiet kinship. Everything is easing outward. Everything is loosening its grip a little, across time too long to feel. The galaxies drift apart, and the worlds ease from their moons, and the tides relax, and the days lengthen, and the whole immense machinery of things winds slowly, faithfully down toward calm. And you are a small warm part of all of it, doing your own small drifting tonight, easing your own grip on your own long day, loosening outward into your own peaceful dark. You are not apart from the universe's slow letting go. You are inside it. You are one more thing it is gently carrying toward rest, held loosely, held faithfully, allowed to drift, and kept safe the whole long way. Come back now, softly, to the near and simple truth of the moon over your own roof tonight. Because after all the eons and the vast rooms and the drifting galaxies, it is good to return to the small and immediate comfort of it. Somewhere above you, whether the clouds let you see it or not, the moon is there, exactly where it has been every night of your life, the same familiar face, the same faithful lantern, hanging in the dark and doing the quiet work it has always done, lifting the far tides, steadying the tilt of the world, laying its pale light down over the sleeping. It has not gone anywhere you could ever notice. It will not go anywhere you could ever notice. Not in your lifetime. Not in 10,000 lifetimes. For all the truth of the drifting, tonight the moon is simply here, near and steady and unchanged, keeping its patient company with you exactly as it always has. And that is the gift of understanding the leaving fully, from the tides that cause it to the eons it will take, from the ancient watchers who found it to the far serene stillness it moves toward. The understanding does not make the moon feel farther away. It makes it feel nearer, dearer, more precious. Because you know now what a long and faithful companionship you are resting inside of. What an old and tender partnership hangs over your roof tonight. You know that the moon has been easing away with perfect grace since the very beginning and has never once stopped keeping its watch, never once dimmed its light, never once turned its face from home. And knowing all that, you can love the moon a little more tonight, calmly, easily, the way you love anything you have finally come to understand. And you can let that quiet love settle over you like one more soft blanket as you drift down towards sleep beneath it. There is nothing left in this story to trouble you, nothing anywhere in it to keep you awake. The leaving is slow, and it is tender, and it is safe. The moon is drifting, and it is faithful, and it is here. The whole vast machinery of world and moon and tide and orbit turns for you gently while you rest, asking nothing, needing nothing, only carrying you as it has carried every sleeper before you, through the turning dark and toward the waiting morning. You have understood the whole of it now, and understood it to be, in the end, nothing but peace, and so you can let it go. Let the story itself drift away like the moon drifting outward, softly, without holding on. And let yourself sink the rest of the way down into the deep serene hush that has been waiting for you all along. Let your mind wander one last unhurried time over the great slow clock the moon has always been for us. Because there is rest in the way it has quietly measured all our time. Long before there were clocks of any kind, before there were words for hours, the moon was up there marking out the months, swelling from a thin curve of light to a full round lantern and thinning away again, over and over, faithful as breathing, and every people who ever lived learned to count their lives by it. The month is the moon's own gift. Its slow, bright cycle written into every calendar there has ever been. And even that cycle, even the length of the month itself, has been very slowly lengthening across the ages as the moon eases outward. The months growing imperceptibly longer, the way the days grow imperceptibly longer. The whole soft clockwork of the sky unwinding by the tiniest degree across spans of time no life could ever feel. And there is a deep calm in being measured by something so patient. The moon has never once hurried its counting. It swells and thins at exactly the pace it always has, indifferent to every human urgency, keeping its own slow time through every frantic age of the world below, and it will keep that same unhurried time tonight, whether you sleep at once or lie a while first in the dark. You do not have to keep any time yourself tonight. You can set down the whole idea of hours, the whole anxious arithmetic of how long until morning and how much sleep is left, and hand your timekeeping over to the moon, which has been counting the nights faithfully since long before you were born, and will go on counting them long after, and let it hold the hours for you while you let go of them completely. Let the hours drift. Let the whole notion of time grow soft and vague and distant, the way it does at the very edge of sleep, when you can no longer quite tell how long you have been lying there, and it no longer matters in the least. The moon is keeping the time. The tides are keeping the rhythm. The turning world is keeping the long, slow count of the night, and none of it needs you to help. You can let go of every last hour, let them all slip away unmeasured into the dark, and rest in the timeless place the drifting moon has opened for you, where there is no clock and no urgency, and no morning that has to be waited for, only the quiet and the drift. and the deep, still peace of a night that will take perfect care of itself while you sleep. Drift back toward that image of the two of them turning together, the Earth and its moon wheeling slowly through the dark, because it is a good image to fall asleep inside of, a slow and steady turning that can carry a tired mind down like a cradle rocking. Picture it from far away, from somewhere out in the calm dark, the small blue world and the small gray moon circling one another in their patient waltz, neither one leading, neither one following, just turning and turning in a rhythm older than the oceans, the moon easing outward by a hair with every slow revolution and never once breaking the dance. There is no strain in their turning. There is no effort anywhere in it. It is the smoothest motion there is, frictionless and faithful, a circling so gentle and so old that it looks, from far enough away, like perfect stillness, like two companions simply resting in each other's presence, in the quiet of the dark. And you are turning with them. You have been all along. The world beneath you carries you around once every night, smoothly, silently, turning you slowly out of the light and into the dark and back again, cradling you through the hours the way it has cradled every sleeper who ever lived. You are being turned right now, gently, imperceptibly, carried eastward through the night at a speed you cannot feel, folded into the same great waltz as the Earth and the moon, one more small turning thing inside all the larger turnings. Let yourself feel it, that slow, faithful carrying, and let it rock you. Let the turning of the world become the turning of a cradle beneath you, easing you down, easing you under, rocking you slowly and steadily and endlessly toward sleep. Around and around, so slow you cannot feel it, so faithful it has never once faltered. The moon around the Earth around itself, your breath around its own quiet tide, in and out, in and out. The whole soft-nested turning of things carrying you gently down, wheels inside wheels inside wheels, all of them slow, all of them calm, all of them turning you toward rest. There is nothing you have to do to keep the turning going. It turns on its own, faithfully, endlessly, whether you are awake to feel it or long since asleep. And you can let go of it completely now. Let go of every last effort, and simply be turned, simply be carried, simply be rocked down and down and down into the deep, serene dark by the oldest and gentlest motion there is. Let one more soft wave of the story wash over you, the reassurance that in all of this vast, slow drifting there is nothing anywhere that requires your worry, nothing that leans on your attention, nothing that would change in the slightest if you simply let the whole of it go and slept. The moon does not need you to track its leaving. It has drifted through unnumbered ages without a single soul aware of it. And the drift lost none of its grace for going unwatched. The tides do not need your tending. They have lifted and settled faithfully through every night of history, most of them with no one watching, and they will lift and settle all through this one, whether you follow them or not. The turning world does not need you awake to keep turning. It has carried the sleeping as faithfully as the waking, always, and it asks nothing of you now but to lie still and be carried. So there is truly nothing left for you to hold tonight, nothing left for you to watch or tend or keep. Every faithful thing in this story does its work entirely without you. The moon eases outward on its own. The seas rise and fall on their own. The world turns on its own, and the days lengthen on their own, and the whole slow drifting machinery of the heavens runs on its own, smoothly and perfectly and forever, needing not one particle of effort from the small warm sleeper resting beneath it. you are free. You are completely free tonight to let go of every last thread, to set down every watchfulness, to release your grip on the whole day and the whole night and the whole turning sky, and to trust it all to carry on without you, faithfully, exactly as it always has. Let go then, let it all drift. Let the story drift, and the day drift, and every heavy thing you carried drift out and away into the vast soft dark, receding like the moon receding, growing distant and dim and unable to reach you. There is nothing to keep hold of. There is nothing to stay awake for. There is only the drift now, only the easing, only the slow faithful letting go carrying you down, and you can give yourself over to it completely, the way the moon gives itself over to the drift, the way the tide gives itself over to the shore. Trusting, loosening, opening your hand across the eons, and letting the whole night carry you tenderly, faithfully, all the way down into sleep. Rest a while longer in the image of the young world and its close bright moon, because there is a strange tenderness in remembering that this whole long drifting apart began in an embrace, and that even the fiercest closeness carried the drift already folded inside it from the very start. When the two of them were new, the moon hung enormous and near, filling the sky, wheeling swiftly overhead, and the young earth spun through its short racing days beneath that vast silver presence, the tides towering, the nights loud with the closeness of it all. It was a beginning full of heat and motion and nearness, and yet even in that first embrace the letting go had already begun, the moon already easing back by the smallest breath, already starting the long, tender journey outward that would carry it across billions of years to the calm, familiar distance you know tonight. The embrace and the drifting were never opposites. They were the same things seen at different ages, the same faithful love expressed first as closeness and then as an unhurried, generous letting go. And is that not the shape of every deep and lasting bond, that it learns over time to hold more loosely, to make more room, to let the beloved drift a little without ever loving it less? The young earth held the moon close and fierce, and the old earth holds it calm and distant, and the moon is no less held now than it was then, only held more gently, more generously, with more space in the embrace. The drifting apart is not the failing of the bond, it is the maturing of it. It is love learning, across the eons, how to hold without gripping, how to keep without clutching, how to let the beloved have all the room in the vast dark sky, and still, always, keep faithful company with it. There is nothing lost in that slow opening of the embrace. There is only a deepening, a softening, a settling into the kind of love that can last 4.5 billion years precisely, because it never once closed its hand into a fist. So let the fierce close beginnings of your own day soften now into the same generous distance, the same open embrace. Whatever you held tightly today, whatever you gripped and clutched and could not seem to loosen, let it ease now into a looser and kinder hold, the way the Earth's fierce young grip on the moon eased across the ages into this calm and faithful distance. You do not have to hold anything fiercely to keep it. You can let it drift out into the room of the night, held loosely, held gently, kept all the more faithfully for the loosening, and you can rest in the deep old wisdom of the drifting moon, which learned so long ago that the surest way to hold a thing forever is to open your hand and let it drift, tenderly, without sorrow, across all the peaceful eons of the dark. Let yourself drift down now through the last of the story, the way the light drifts down through deep still water, softer and dimmer and slower, with every fathom. You have traveled a long way tonight, out across the eons and back, From the young close moon to the far serene stillness it moves toward. Through the tides and the lengthening days and the patient watchers with their clay tablets and their laser light, and everywhere you went the same tender truth was waiting, that the leaving is slow and the leaving is safe. And the leaving is only love learning to hold with an open hand. There is nowhere left to go now but down. Down into the hush. Down into the sleep that has been rising to meet you all this while. And you can let yourself go there easily. Carried by everything you have understood. Cradled by the whole faithful drifting sky. Feel how heavy and warm and far away your body has become. How loose your open hands are against the sheets, how slow and deep your breathing has grown, moving now like the oldest tide there is. Feel the bed beneath you turned soft and vast. Feel yourself floating in the great gentle room of the night, held by nothing that grips, carried by the slowest and kindest of currents. There is nothing left for you to do. There is nothing left for you to hold. The moon is drifting faithfully overhead, and the tides are breathing faithfully below, and the world is turning faithfully beneath you, and every last piece of it is taking perfect care of itself and of you, needing nothing, asking nothing, only carrying you down, down and down, and gently down. Let the last edges of the story blur and dim. Let the words grow faint and far. Let the moon in your mind drift slowly out of focus, its pale light softening, its slow leaving fading into the dark, until there is only the drift left, only the quiet, only the deep still peace of a mind letting go of the very last thing it was holding. You are almost there now. You are drifting the way the moon drifts, easing outward, loosening, letting go without sorrow, sinking softly through the fathoms of the dark toward the deep and dreamless rest that has been waiting for you, patient as the moon itself all along. And still the moon drifts, faithful as ever, in the real dark above your real roof, easing outward this very moment by an amount too small to see, exactly as it has every night of your life, and every night before your life, and every night that will come after, needing no one to watch, asking nothing of anyone, only keeping its slow tender company with the world it loves. There is such deep peace in that steadiness, in something so vast and so old, carrying on so gently while you rest, holding its patient light over you, lifting the far tides, steadying the tilt of the world, doing all its quiet faithful work in the dark, without a single demand upon you. You can rest amid all that faithful motion like a child resting in the middle of a house where everyone else is quietly awake and keeping watch, safe, held, free to let go completely, free to sink all the way down into sleep while the great gentle machinery of the night hums faithfully on around you. So let yourself sink now, the last of the way, into the deep still dark. Let the drifting carry you. Let the turning cradle you. Let the tide of your own slow breath rock you down past the edge of waking and into the soft country of sleep, where the moon still shines but no longer needs your watching, where the eons pass but no longer press on you, where there is nothing left anywhere but rest. You have understood the leaving and found it kind. You have followed the drift and found it safe. And now you can let it all go, softly, without holding on, and drift the rest of the way down into the peaceful dark that has opened beneath you like a wide and quiet sea. Tonight has been about a slow and tender leaving, and about how a leaving can be the gentlest thing in the world. Tonight has been about the moon easing outward across the eons, a hair's breadth every year, so slow that on any night it looks like perfect stillness. Tonight has been about the tides that raise the seas and, in the same soft motion, Ease the moon away, the world holding its companion by lifting the water and setting it free by pulling it forward, all in one unhurried caress. Tonight has been about the lengthening of the days and the winding down of the spinning world, and the way nothing in any of it is ever lost, only handed gently on. Tonight has been about the patient watchers with their clay tablets and their laser light, who leaned close to the sky across the ages and found, in the end, not something to fear, but something to marvel at quietly. Tonight has been about an open hand across the eons, a hand that holds by not gripping, that keeps by making room, that lets the beloved drift and loves it no less for the drifting. And tonight has been about you, resting here, folded into the great faithful turning of it all. The moon is drifting, and it is faithful, and it is here. The moon is drifting, and it is faithful, and it is here. The moon is drifting, and it is faithful, and it is here. The leaving is slow. The leaving is safe. The leaving is only love learning to hold with an open hand. You are held. You are carried. You are free to let go. None of this needs anything from you tonight. The moon does not need you to watch it leave. The tides do not need you to tend them. The turning world does not need you awake to keep turning. And the whole slow drifting sky does not need one particle of effort from the small warm sleeper resting beneath it. Every faithful thing in this story does its work entirely without you. Gently, endlessly, exactly as it always has. And so there is nothing left for you to hold, nothing left for you to keep, nothing left for you to do but rest. You can set it all down now. You can let every last thread go. You are free, completely free, to drift. And when this quiet exploration comes softly to its end, there is another one already waiting on the screen. Another calm drift through the wonders of the dark, ready to begin. You do not have to reach for it. You do not have to choose it or start it or do anything at all. Let it begin on its own, the way the moon begins each night's drifting on its own, the way the tide begins its climb on its own, and let its low, steady voice carry on where this one leaves off, easing you deeper still, so that if you are somehow still awake at the edge of the quiet, you will simply drift on into the next gentle dark without a single seam between them. Let it come to you. Let it begin by itself. Let it carry you on, and if a soft question wants to drift through your mind as you fall, let it be only this, and let it ask nothing of you. Which face of the drifting did you become tonight? The world that holds without gripping, or the companion that eases away without ever once looking back from the thing it loves? You do not have to answer. You do not have to choose. You can be both, held and holding at once, watched and watching at once, and let even the question drift away unanswered into the dark, the way everything else has drifted, softly, without sorrow, into the peaceful room of the night. Now let the last of it settle through your body like warmth sinking into deep still water. Feel your open hands, loose and heavy against the sheets, letting go the way the earth's hold lets go across the eons. Feel your shoulders wide and dropped and easy, the day's weight drifted away and out of reach. Feel your slow breath moving like the oldest tide there is, in like a tide climbing softly up the sand, out like a tide easing back down into the dark, each one longer, each one slower, each one carrying you further down. Feel your legs grown heavy and warm and wonderfully far away, your whole body floating now in the vast soft room of the night, held by nothing that grips, carried by the slowest and kindest of currents, drifting outward and downward at once, loosening, easing, sinking gently through the fathoms toward the deep, and dreamless rest that has been waiting for you, patient as the moon, all along. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. There is only the drift now, only the hush, only the slow, faithful letting go carrying you all the way down. The moon keeps its watch above you. The tides keep their rhythm below you. The turning world cradles you through the dark, and it will carry you gently to the morning, faithfully, exactly as it has carried every sleeper who ever lay beneath this drifting moon. You are safe. You are held. You are free to drift the rest of the way down. Sleep well.